Okay, folks, today is the 10th of June, 2025. Out here in my shop this afternoon, working on the brakes on my 1984 Trans Am over here. Started out replacing the master cylinder and decided that I was going to replace all of the rubber brake hoses, which I ordered a couple of months ago. This car sat around for a long time. It's only got 54,000 original miles on it, so I wanted to replace all this stuff before I drove it, mainly the brake hoses, but the master cylinder was bypassing, so I needed to replace it anyway. And while I was doing this, I disconnect the rubber line from the passenger side rear brake caliper, which, by the way, is the only caliper that has a rubber line on it. On the driver's side, it actually has a rigid line attached to the brake caliper. I guess because the way it's mounted, it's free to move and it's okay without a rubber line. I don't like it, but that's how it is. Anyway, when I disconnected this rubber line, the fluid that came out of that brake caliper looked like muddy water. And so I decided I'd better take it apart and clean it out, clean it up, put it back together clean so that I didn't have any problems with it. But it turns out that this particular brake caliper is one of the most complicated brake calipers that General Motors employed on any of their vehicles, because the emergency brake feature is incorporated into the caliper. I believe they used this same caliper on F-body cars and possibly some other vehicles that had rear disc brakes from 1979 up until the mid or late 80s. Not real sure. There was an upgrade caliper available that was aluminum. I believe it had 2 pistons in it. I'm not too familiar with it. I think it was called a PBR caliper. Anyway, this is the early style and probably the most common. And I've got this one all apart. I looked around on YouTube when I got ready to do this, could not find a good comprehensive video that talked about these brake calipers or how they went back together. When I took this one apart, it pretty much just exploded and pieces went everywhere. And so I couldn't even find a good exploded view drawing of how this thing goes back together. So I'll figure it out, and I decided along the way I would just make a video. I figured this will help some folks out. But as you can see, there's a lot of pieces here. This piece right here is the main player in the emergency brake function. There's a lever that attaches on the end here, right here. And as you twist it, this very sharp angle thread right here pushes forward on this gear, which is engaged in this piston here, which fits down in the main piston for the brake caliper. And as you twist it, it forces that piston out and engages your parking brake effectively. Anyway, a lot of pieces here. We've got a washer stack here that includes a very light duty Torrington type bearing to manage the thrust. There's another shim here. These are the slides for the pins. Here's the brake banjo bolt for the hose, copper washers for that. This is the spring cup for the main spring. Here's my bleeder. Here we got the main lip seal or dust seal for the piston. This is the lip seal for the inner piston. I've got another, like a square O-ring here that fits on this shaft in this groove right here, which seals it among this hole right here, which is where the lever attaches. Anyway, I'm going to attempt to put this thing back together. Probably going to break this video up into several sections because I can't do this and hold the camera at the same time. Plus, there's probably going to be some cussing because this is probably not going to be easy to put together. So I'm going to end this section right here and put together an assembly, and then I'll make another piece of the video and explain what I assembled and take it from there. Stay tuned. Okay, I think this is about take 6 or take 7 on this part. Like I said, this thing exploded in my face when I took it apart, so I'm trying to figure out how it goes back together, and I think I finally got it. So the inner piston is assembled down into the main piston. I've got the little plastic rubber cap in the vent hole. The lip seal is installed on this inner piston with the lip facing inboard to the caliper. If you put the lip on backwards, you will have a fluid leak, and it will come out through this little vent hole right here. The only purpose of this vent hole is to break the vacuum in this cylinder so you can remove this piston. All right. Here is the inner part of the corkscrew. It assembles down in here, just like this. I'm trying to do this. It's difficult. All right. So it goes down in there. Next, the inner spring goes on, just like that. Next, your Torrington bearing stack goes on. You have a flat washer on either side with the bearing in the middle. You set it on top here, just like that. Okay. Now I have the spring cup installed on one end of the mainspring. It goes on here just like this. Well, anyway, I'm trying to screw it up here. All right. Last thing that goes in is the outboard end of the corkscrew, and I think I found a partial exploded diagram of this. They're calling this the activating rod, but anyway, that's the next piece that goes in. Oh shit. Okay. Let's make this easier. I took the spring off of the little cup here. Goes like that. And then this goes down in here just like this. And that's what you're left with. Then the spring goes on, just like that. And then this whole assembly goes into the caliper. This activating rod will go through this hole, and then you will install this washer on the back side with the lip facing the caliper, and put your brake cable lever on. So I'm gonna go ahead and struggle with this now and see if I can get this put together. Right, so this is together, and it actually went together a little easier than I thought it would. and I've got my cable lever attached on the back here like it's supposed to be. And I have not put the dust seal on yet. That's the last thing I do. So I've left the piston partially extended so that I can get this dust seal on here. And it's actually easy when you do it this way. Obviously you're going to fit the ID of the seal around the piston first, and then you can take a good straight slot screwdriver that's got kind of a thick blade so that it's, you know, not too sharp, and you can push this seal right into the bore where it goes. They don't fit very tight, you know. In other words, you know, you don't have to drive them in there. So it's pretty easy to do. I'll show it again after I get that done. Okay, folks, it's a couple hours later now. It actually didn't take but a couple of minutes to get this thing put back together, but I decided to break for supper and watched a YouTube video, and you know how it goes. But anyway, this is all back together now. One thing I did do that I forgot to mention is I did make a scribe mark on the shaft, on the end of the shaft, and on the cable lever, so that I put it back where it belonged. Not really sure that it matters because of the way that this mechanism works, but right now this is in the fully released position. If I twist this clockwise, it will extend the piston and engage the emergency brake. The problem is turning it back counterclockwise doesn't suck the piston back in. You have to twist it back in with one of these contraptions on the end of your socket extensions. There's multiple different selections you can use here for all different types of brake caliper pistons to engage them, so that you can twist it back. But anyway, it works. It's all back together. Getting ready to stick it back on the car. One thing I didn't mention, when you go to put your caliper back together, make sure everything is clean on the inside, and only use brake fluid that your vehicle calls for to lubricate everything when you're putting it together. It's a little hard to resist putting grease or oil on these parts when you put it together, but if you do that, that stuff doesn't mix well with brake fluid, and it can cause other problems down the road. So try to avoid doing that. Make sure everything's clean, and just lubricate your stuff with the brake fluid you're going to put in the system. So take a walk over here and look at this fluid that came out of this caliper, and you'll know why I went to all this trouble. That's what it looked like. Pretty nasty stuff. Another interesting thing about this car, you cannot get the lower caliper bolt out without dropping this lower control arm. And since you can't get the bolt out, you can't get the caliper off. So I had to drop the lower control arm. And I think before I put this back, I've scribed a mark here where the bolt hits. I think I'm going to drill a hole right here that'll allow that bolt to pass through into the control arm so that I can get the caliper off. And I'm going to do that before I button this up here this evening. And then over here on the other side, I'll show you what I was talking about, how this one does not have a rubber hose. It's just got an adapter block there where the banjo fitting is, and the hard line has a long loop in it right here that just functions as an expansion joint, so to speak, to allow this caliper to move in and out as the pads wear. There's no rubber hose on this side. Let's see. I don't know if you can see the brake line up here or not, where it comes over the axle. I can't see, it's too dark. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. It's got a rubber hose right here, and then just one over here on this side. But no rubber hose on the driver's side. Very strange indeed. Well, hopefully this video will help some folks. I know it's been a learning experience for me because I couldn't find any such video, and I never had one of these calipers apart before. So the other side caliper, which I'm going to take apart also, should be a lot easier now that I understand how this works. Something else that I'll mention is these calipers are both identical. There is not a left or a right. Either caliper will work on either side, because on the passenger side, the brake caliper is mounted on the front side of the axle or towards the front of the car, and on the driver's side, the caliper is mounted on the back side of the axle. So the bleed screw position is still facing up on either side. That's some pretty penny pinching engineering, if I ever saw some. All right, well, I'm going to cut it off here. Thanks for watching.